do you remember how much they started you off at?
I was making $24.50.
That's what I hear all the time. It's in the 20s, low 20s, which is crazy because like there was this girl a while ago who posted on TikTok about how the people working at Target are getting paid more than the nurses in Florida, which made no sense to me.
Yes. I literally quit my job working as a travel nurse and I was making dollars a month. I was making, hypothetically speaking, a great deal of income, but I was throwing up. I was having migraines. I was like, my equilibrium, it was just off. And I am a pretty healthy person. So for me to be experiencing that, I had no understanding why. I literally went to sleep one day and I woke up and I told my partner, I said, I'm not going to work today. And he said, okay, you want to stay home? You want to read a book? You want to watch a movie? And I said, no, I'm not going back to work ever again.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel in our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. If you're a nurse watching this video and wondering why you're constantly slaving yourself away for your employer while being underpaid and underappreciated for all of the work that you do, if you wake up in the morning struggling to make ends meet because you don't understand just how valuable you are, then you need to watch today's episode. In this episode, I interview a nurse who, in addition to being underpaid, was bullied at work by her peers. She quit her job as a staff nurse and went from making under $2,000 per week as a travel nurse to well over $20,000 per month. And she is now making a living teaching other nurses how to do the same. She also teaches others about financial literacy and how to start and run a successful business. She's also been interviewed by Anthony in The Table with AO, who was shocked by just how much money she made as a travel nurse. So today, she's going to tell us about her journey from being an underpaid nurse, unhappy with herself and her career, to making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So with that, let us know what your name is, where you're from, and why you decided to become a nurse.
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Christina, but everyone knows me as Nurse Chrissy. I originally am from Miami, Florida. I have a background. My family, they have come to Miami from the Bahamas. And I just lived in Florida my entire life. I grew up here, graduated from high school, and then I went to college at the University of Florida. And as far as me becoming a nurse, I did 2 years in undergrad, not knowing what I wanted to do. So, those people, you go to school, you want to go to college, but you don't know what you want to do. That was me. And then I went on a medical mission trip in 2014. I just realized that I was supposed to become a nurse. So that's where me actually starting my journey of nursing started.
So you graduated in what year?
I graduated with my first degree in 2016 with health science because, again, I was in school on a track. I didn't know that I wanted to do nursing. So I graduated with my first degree in 2016 of health science. And then I did an accelerated nursing program and graduated in 2017.
Wow, accelerated. Damn. So that's how did you find the accelerated program? Because a lot of people ask me, is it as rigorous as, any other bachelor's degree?
So I felt like it was great for me because it was the only thing that I had to focus on. I feel like when you are in undergrad, still doing your degree, you're also focusing on other extracurriculars. You might be applying for other things. But when you're doing an accelerated program, it's just 100% all nursing. So it was, I won't say tough, but it was interesting. That's how I describe it.
So how long after you graduated did it take you to find a job?
So I had a job lined up for me, fortunately. So the University of Florida, they have a research hospital. It's connected to it. So it's a place where if you start school as a freshman, you can volunteer there. You can work your way in there, and they're always having jobs open for new grads. So I started in the ICU. I had already had great relationships with different managers in the hospital. So it was just kind of waiting for me.
And do you remember how much they started you off at?
I was making $24.50.
That's what I hear all the time. It's in the 20s, low 20s, which is crazy because like there was this girl a while ago who posted on TikTok about how the people working at Target are getting paid more than the nurses in Florida, which made no sense to me.
Yes. And Florida's not cheap. Florida's a pretty penny, but thankfully I was living in Gainesville, Florida, which is really a college town. Everything is surrounded around my college. So most people, it's pretty affordable for them to live, especially if you are just now graduating. Some people, they stay there after college until, they get their feet wet and then they leave. So that's what I did.
You know, it's funny because I make a lot of, well, I used to a couple of months ago, I was making videos about research that I found through like the Bureau of Labor Statistics and gathering like data from Zillow to find out average home prices and other average rent prices. And I found that Gainesville, Florida is actually one of the most affordable places to live at if
Yeah.
you're a nurse.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you said that.
True. It really is true. And then a lot of the housing around the university, it's for college. So, it's college housing. So you can, well, this was in 2017, right? But you were able to find an apartment. You could stay in a 4-4 for $400 a month, or, a 2-2 for $600 a month. That's pretty, you can live off of that, as a new nurse, and especially making $24.50 an hour. But yes, that's how much I was making when I first started.
So where were you living? Were you living in a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom? What kind of apartment or house were you living in?
So I was living in a 2-2, but I didn't have a roommate. So I just had like an apartment to myself.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
And how much were you paying at the time? Do you remember?
I want to say it has to be anywhere between $600-$650.
Wow, that's not bad at all for a 2-bedroom. I remember the first 2-bedroom apartment that I got in Manhattan was like $2,500.
Manhattan. Well, New York is just interesting. New York is just different. New York is different. So that makes it.
That's true. So how long did you last in this position before you decided to move on?
2 years. So I literally started travel nursing on my 2-year anniversary as a nurse, at like literally same day, everything, April 13th. I'll never forget. So I literally did my 2 years and then did travel nursing.
And why did you choose travel nursing?
I feel like in 2014, when I had this awakening that I was supposed to become a nurse, I was in Costa Rica. So it just made me feel like, is there a such thing as a nurse who can travel but still be a nurse? So I started doing my research about travel nursing in 2014. And when it was the right moment, right timing for me to actually do travel nursing, I just did it. So I was just waiting for my time, but I had been studying travel nursing for a long time before I actually started.
Were you nervous at first?
No, I was
Really?
not nervous. No, because I travel the world a lot to, I want to say maybe 48 countries.
Wow.
I think
My
so.
God.
Yeah, maybe 48 countries. So in undergrad, I traveled a lot. I traveled all the time. As a new nurse, I traveled a lot. My manager, we were like this. He was such a great person. And he would always say, "Where are we going this weekend, Christina? Where are we going on Monday?" So I had always traveled the world anyway. So me moving and starting travel nursing just made me feel like, oh, well, I'm just taking another vacation, but I'll be working here. So I wasn't nervous. No.
It sounds like you and travel nursing were just meant to be then.
Yes, yes. I would say we went together real bad.
So did you learn any Spanish in Costa Rica?
I learned Spanish in Miami. If you're thinking about surviving here in Miami, you should learn Spanish. It's a lot of people from different cultures. They live here, and it's easier for you to communicate. And even if you don't speak it fluently, at least trying really helps. So I learned it here in Miami.
Cool. So do you speak it fluently or you can get by with the words?
I can get by. I most definitely can get by, but I understand it much better than I speak it. It's kind of one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I took Mandarin when I was in college for like 2 years, and I learned it. Yeah, I was even able to write it. But I had nobody to speak with after I graduated, so I just like completely forgot it.
Yeah, I lost it. It can come back to you later on.
Yeah.
And that I feel whenever I'm in South American country or something, I can understand it. But speaking it, I'm just like, yo.
As long as you understand it, that's what counts, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, okay, when you started your first position as a travel nurse, where did you work?
I worked at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore.
And were you doing ICU as a travel nurse as well?
Yes. So my entire career, I always did ICU. I started in the ICU and then I finished in the ICU. So I started doing surgical ICU as a new grad. That was my first introduction to nursing, first introduction to the ICU. And then towards the end of my 2 years working like as a new nurse before travel nursing, I started floating to different units. So burn ICU, medicine ICU, trauma ICU, pulmonary ICU, cardiac ICU, all over. So when I did Johns Hopkins, I started in their surgical ICU.
And which one was your favorite out of all the ICUs you worked in?
My favorite, I think I like the surgical ICU. Maybe it's just because it's my background, but I just was able to understand things better. I was always grateful for my patients who were able to talk because most of my patients were intubated. Either they're coming out of surgery or there's some sort of trauma that took place. So I just really enjoyed the surgical ICU for sure.
Interesting. And do you remember how much that contract paid?
Oh my gosh, it was the lowest contract I had ever taken. And at the time, when I started working at Johns Hopkins for my first contract, that was in the beginning of COVID. So this was April of 2020, right? And we knew a little bit about COVID, but not much, right? So the market shifted right when COVID started. But I thought that I was doing something great because I started my contract in April of 2020, but they hired me in February. So yeah, I just always had these jobs just like waiting for me. So I signed the contract in February before the pandemic was declared March. So I signed for a very lower rate. And then when I started, I was just like, man, can I negotiate my rate? And I want to say it had to be, in the 1000s or 2000s for sure. Like
Ooh,
1000. Yes.
that's painful.
Yes.
And then you see all these other nurses making four, 5, 6, 7,000.
$10,000 a week.
Yeah.
I didn't get upset at all. However, I did communicate with my recruiter at the time. I was like, you told me that I wouldn't be taking care of COVID patients. And in the event that I am, I'll be able to renegotiate. And they were trying to give me a hard time. And I just said, if I don't have a new contract, I'm not going to start. So the day, I want to say was that Friday of the first week of my contract, they gave me a new contract. And it still wasn't significantly a lot more, but it was just the fact that they understood, I was worth making a little bit more. So I just did that contract for 13 weeks. And then I went straight to Arizona. And then that contract, I want to say I was making, $5,000 a week or something.
What a huge difference.
Yeah, I was making like $5,000 a week in Arizona. And then from there, I just took off.
Wow. So what was your goal as a travel nurse? Why did you want to get into travel nursing besides the aspect of being able to travel to different locations?
That was really my main thing, to be honest, because, I have been studying the market since 2014. So someone making $5,000, $10,000 a week, that wasn't a thing. At most, you probably made, high 3,000s, possibly 4,000 if you were working in the OR in California. But that wasn't the norm across the United States of America, I would say. So my mindset about travel nursing, that was really a thing for me. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to meet new people, and I still wanted to be compensated where I can live more than comfortably. And financially, travel nursing just allowed me to do that. So when the pandemic came and then the market shifted, I just, made adjustments with the market. But I really love meeting people, love talking to people, love connecting with people. And I knew travel nursing would give me that avenue.
I see. So I have a question because you have a tax home and your tax home is in Florida, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So while you're traveling to all of these states, you still have to pay your mortgage or your rent in Florida, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So when you were working in Johns Hopkins and you were making what, like 1,100 or 15, whatever, 1,000 something dollars per week.
1,600 or 1,800, something like
Yeah. And then you still have to pay for your rent or your mortgage in your home state.
that. Yeah.
So that's really, you're like really making crumbs compared to what you were making in Arizona then at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeez. So how did you decide
I
on,
understand that. I'm happy that wasn't even difficult for you to process because that was really my life. Because people look at me now, and especially anyone who can see you on the internet, they have to understand that they're interacting with you at this moment in time and age of where you were. I'm 29 years old now. That was 3 years ago, 5 years ago. I was, 20, 24, 25. So totally different lifetime. But I'm glad you're able to actually process that.
yeah, because I do think about that when, travel nurses do travel and the reason why I think about that often is, I would have loved to be a travel nurse, but I'm like, my wife is a nurse as well, but we have kids. It's harder with kids, right? But then I always think about like the cost benefit to it. So right now we live in California, but we live in a lower cost of living area of California. And if I were to work, let's say 36 hours a week, which I don't, I only work less than 20 hours a week. But if I were to work 36 hours a week, I would be bringing home at least like $250,000 a year. And that's as a staff nurse.
Right.
And then in addition to that, I do not have a tax home where I don't have another mortgage in another state. So I think about that often, when I think about how much travelers are spending, not just where they're working and where they're living, close to their job, but also back home. And if they don't think creatively about their spending, about how much they're actually going to make, then they might actually end up making less than the staff nurses in the end. Which is why I love interviewing travel nurses, because they can like really dig deep into the cost of what it means to be a travel nurse. And that's why I like having people like you on the show, because then you can explain all this to us, right?
Yes.
So when you were living in Arizona, your income went up. You were making, you said like about $5,000 a week now.
Yes.
At that point, right? How much were you spending back home, mortgage or rent wise?
So I want to say it has to be anywhere between like $1,200 to $1,500. And again, I had been studying the market since 2014. So I've created a strategy since 2014. I was just waiting for, me to hit my 2-year mark as a nurse. And just like you mentioned, a lot of nurses, they go into travel nursing because of the idea of travel nursing or what they've seen on TikTok or what they've seen on Instagram. But you very much so can't put yourself in a situation where you are paying more than you're actually reaping. So it's so important to have a strategy for sure.
So you said you were paying about $1,200 a month, correct?
Yeah.
And then, but what was your stipend? Was it included in that $5,000 that you were making per week?
Yes. So my stipend was included. With that. So as far as someone having a tax home, you also can have your own mortgage. You can be paying your own rent, or you can rent a room, essentially. So what some people do, they'll say they're like renting a room out of their parents' home or, something like that. However, for tax purposes, that still needs to be applicable to the area that you're living in. It's not like, your parents' mortgage may be $2,500 or $3,000, and you're going to be paying $200 in rent to say that you're in a room. No, you can't do that. So it's super important to just have a strategy so that you're not, at a deficit more so than having actual profits.
And what you mean by that is that it has to be at market rate, right? So the rent that you're paying has to be at market rate. So even if you choose to live in your parents' home, you have to rent a room that's equivalent to what's being rented in the neighborhood.
Correct. Correct. If we're doing this legally and ethically, yes, that's how you're going to do it. And some travel nurses can put themselves in situations where they're being audited or they come up with issues, but these are the things that more people should talk about. So I'm happy you're even asking. That matters.
Have you actually seen a situation where a nurse has been audited because of something like that?
Not me personally, not anyone that I personally know. Yeah, I haven't personally, but I know it happens because I'm in the Facebook groups. I follow people on TikTok and I see things on social media. So I've seen it, but I don't know anyone personally.
I see. Okay, so you spent how long in Arizona? Were you there for 13 weeks as well, or was it a shorter contract?
I was in Arizona for 13 weeks. I loved working in Arizona. I worked in Arizona summer of 2020, and then I went back summer of 2021 also. Loved it.
What was so good about it? Like, that's the first time I heard somebody say they like Arizona.
For me, it was the change of scenery. Arizona has Scottsdale, and it was just a different environment, different vibe. I really liked it. And I don't necessarily like cold weather. Baltimore could get very cold. I'm from Florida. I'm always trying to stay in very hot climates or warm climates. So Arizona was that for me. I met a lot of nice people. The food was good. And the hospital that I worked for wasn't bad. So all around, it was perfect for me. I love going to spas and things like that. So I would just go to all of the different resorts, all the Marriott resorts, and go to the spas. It was my vibe. It was very much so right up my alley.
I kind of understand where you're coming from because I'm from New York City, right? Move to
Yeah.
California. California has really beautiful locations, and it's just different anywhere in California that you go to. So like the north is different from the south, and
Yeah.
the central coast and all of that. But when I went to Utah, because Utah is very similar to Arizona in
Yeah.
like landscape wise,
Yeah.
I just like fell in love with it. I felt like I was on another planet because we were not used to seeing like the red rock and the limestone and all of that, so that was
Yeah.
beautiful to me. So I kind of get it. But me, I'm a city boy. So like, as soon as we left New York City, I was like, I miss New York. And me and my wife, we say that all the time. We still miss New York till this day. But we're still trying to figure out where we're going to move to after we leave California, because the goal is to not stay in California. We do want to move somewhere else. We just
Mhm.
don't know where. And you're lucky in the fact that you have a home in Florida, so you don't pay taxes to the state.
Yep.
So that's a consideration. But it's so hot and humid in Florida.
It's not that bad.
Really?
Really not. It's really not that bad. And maybe I'm comparing it also to other places in the world because I've been to so many different countries. And I'm like, look, if you're going to live anywhere, you might as well live in Miami. If you're not going to live in Miami, we're going international. So I'm used to it. I grew up here also, so that plays a part.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so you left Arizona, but you came back later on. But in between that time, where did you go?
So I did all my contracts back to back, right? So I want to say I did Arizona and then I did Mayo Clinic in Florida, like the number one hospital in Florida.
Yeah.
That was another thing too, a part of my strategy. I didn't just want to work for random hospitals or places that were paying a lot of money. I wanted to work somewhere that was paying a lot of money, but also had a lot of resources. It was a level 1 trauma hospital, and I knew that I would be safe and my license was protected. So I went to Mayo Clinic in Florida. I was missing my friends and family, so I felt a little homesick. So I went there. My best friend was living in that area at the time. And then I went to Hawaii. I went to Hawaii.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
lovely. Which island?
So I went to Oahu.
Mm.
It was my favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite assignment ever.
Yeah. So you said you worked back-to-back contracts. How
Yeah.
much did you make that year?
Oh, I honestly, so when anyone asks me, like, how much did you make a year? It's so hard for me to even process because I never worked a full year, if that makes sense. So with travel nursing, you're not always necessarily like making income per year. I can just say, okay, I know how much I made on these contracts. So I know Johns Hopkins, that contract was like $1,800, then it went up to like $2,500 a week. And I did that
Yeah.
for 13 weeks. And I went to Arizona, made like $20K a month while I was working in Arizona for 3 months. So that's like $60K. Then I went to Mayo Clinic. I was making $4K a week. And I did that for 13 weeks. So 16,000 times 3, which should be what?
It's like 50,
48,000.
48,000.
Yeah. So 60,000 plus 48,000, whatever that is. And then I went to Hawaii and I was making $4,200 a week. So another 48, almost 50,000
So you made about 180 that year.
for that year. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the following year, which was 2021, I only took contracts where I was making $4,000 a week or $5,000 a week. And
Wow.
yes, I'm telling you, I was very strategic, and it wasn't just about me making a lot of money. It was just more so, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And I wanted to be wise with the contracts that I took, but I also knew that I wanted to retire within the next year. I knew immediately.
That's ambitious.
Year that I wanted to retire within the next year. So I worked aggressively to make a copious amount of money, but I aggressively invested a lot of money because my goal was to retire also.
Cool.
So I never really was, stuck on, how much money am I making a year? It was more so, okay, what are we doing with this 50,000?
Yeah.
Where are we putting this 60,000? So I want to say in total of me working from 2020 to 2023, because I stopped travel nursing April or May of 2023. I want to say I made like $350,000.
All right. Now, let's talk about this now, because you said you were focused on how much money you were keeping, right?
Absolutely.
Not how much money you were making. And that's something that I believe everyone should be thinking about. Every nurse. right? That is what's going to allow us to not be broke and living paycheck to paycheck. If we think about how much we're actually keeping. And not only that, right? Not only how much we're keeping, but how much of it is growing and compounding exponentially. Right?
Investment.
Yes. So did you have any student loan debt before you became a nurse?
Yes, I did. So my first degree, I was on a full scholarship. So I didn't really like pay for anything for my first degree. But nursing school, I paid for nursing school. I went to the University of Florida. It's a public school. So I didn't have any like private,
Yeah.
expenses. I didn't have any private expenses. And then my cost of living was fairly, inexpensive. So I would say probably as far as debt, may have been like, less than 30,000. It wasn't anything, super like 200,000 or 300,000. No, my accelerated degree was fairly quickly, like 16 months or so. And my housing wasn't expensive because I was living in Gainesville. So that's the only quote unquote debt that I had before working as a nurse.
Okay. So when you started making your money as a travel nurse, what were you doing with it?
I was investing.
Okay.
I was
Break it
investing
down.
my money. Yes, I was investing a lot of my money, but it wasn't just in like stocks and shares. It was in my mind, in my mindset. Because if I was going to be retiring from nursing, what was I going to be doing? How was I going to be pivoting? What was that going to look like for me? And working as a nurse, we are conditioned to serve others and then take care of ourselves. That's how we're conditioned. We're conditioned from the oath. So I spent a lot of my money investing in personal development to more so reprogram my mind and take myself out of the identity of being a nurse and saying, okay, you are Christina, not just Chrissy or Nurse Chrissy, you're Christina. What do you need? So I started learning more about financial literacy that we don't get exposed to in nursing school at all. So I spent a hefty amount of money investing in personal development and then stocks and things like that.
It's like I mentioned this in a previous video. I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozy is, but
Yes. I
okay.
love Alex.
Yeah.
I love the audibles. The other day I wanted to listen to his audible while I was in the shower because I was rushing that morning. And I remember just wrapping my phone up in a Ziploc bag just so I can hear the audible.
That sounds like me right there.
In a Ziploc bag. And I was just like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So
But I really wrapped it in a Ziploc bag, but I love in his audibles for sure.
exactly. So one thing that I really love about what he said and that it will stick with me forever is when he says instead of just investing in the S&P 500, you need to invest in the SME 500. And that just like resonates so well with me because, when we get out of college, first of all, in college and in high school, we don't learn about financial literacy, right? But once we do start making money in our careers, the first thing we go to is, okay, let's invest in our 401ks, our Roth IRAs. But then what? You're going to do that for 40 years so you can be a millionaire in 30 or 40 years? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. Sure, it makes sense for somebody who wants to be an employee for the rest of their lives. But it doesn't make sense for somebody who doesn't want to be a slave to somebody else for the rest of their lives, right?
Absolutely.
So not even when he said that, but even before he said that, that has always been in my mind. I don't want to be an employee for the rest of my life. But when he did say that, at that point, I made the decision, and me and my wife, we're working on an e-commerce brand right now. And we feel like we need to invest in ourselves right now. And I started this YouTube channel, like almost 3 years ago now. But the dividends that I'm getting from investing in our business, like that e-commerce brand, I think will be much bigger than what I'm doing with the YouTube channel. Even though I love the YouTube channel, I feel like it's a slow rate of growth with the YouTube channel. And I can reach a wide audience, which is great. I'm still going to continue it. And my goal is to build this brand and talk about how I'm building it on my YouTube channel. Right? So that other people can learn from us, because I'm going to talk about our wins and our failures. And I want people to learn from us as well.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited for your journey. Listen, I support nurses, okay? I'm going to support nurses to the day that I die.
Yeah.
And that I just have a very special place in my heart for nurses, because when my grandmother was in a coma when I was an undergrad, it was the nurses who picked my face up off the floor, okay? The nurses, not anyone else. It was them. So me living my life now is really just me repay it's just like I'm just repaying the nurses for actually helping me get through the lowest point of my life than actually graduating as a nurse. And now I serve nurses, and more nurses we need to adopt that mindset.
Yes.
You know, just how you had that light bulb turn on for you. I want more nurses to be able to have that light bulb turn on for them. And even though it may seem scary, because to most people, they're just like, I'm a nurse. And it's just like, but you can be a boss too. You know, you can be
Yes.
a boss, you can be a boss. You can be
Yeah.
a as well. You can be a traveler. You can explore. You can be a podcaster. You can be an author. You can be more than just a nurse. So
That's
I'm excited for you guys. I think that's dope.
Thank
I'm
you. Okay. So now let's dive into more about what you do, though, because
okay.
you said you took all of these courses. I had a previous episode where I interviewed a nurse who owned a med spa business, and she said that her business didn't actually grow as much until she started investing in other courses and mentorships. So someone in the comments asked, "Hey, can you ask her what mentorship program she enrolled in?" I would like to know what kind of mentorship programs or courses you took to get to where you are.
Yeah. So I did not know that I was going to be investing in a mentorship program. I'll just put that out there. Okay. Let's put that out on the table. I thought that I was going to a personal development event and I was going to meet some people and I was just supporting the person who I came with. That's it. But it turned into me actually listening to the things that the person was saying on stage, and what they were saying was just making a lot of sense. You know, if you're unhappy, if you're stressed out, why do you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? That's the definition of insanity. And I was just like, the definition of insanity, and they were just saying different things on stage. And he was explaining a bit about his program of how he teaches people how to create their own digital program and their own digital products to reach an audience of people, and, how much you're able to generate from that. So he was like, if you feel like this is an opportunity for you, if you feel like this is what you want, come up here and come to the stage right now. And I just got up. Like, I don't know. He's like, bring all your things, bring all your stuff, like come up to the stage. And I just got the things that I had and I walked on stage, and the person who I was with, they were looking at me like, like, what's happening here? But that was such an exhilarating moment for me in my life because I made a decision for myself. And the hardest thing for most people to do is to just make a decision. Just make a decision. And whatever decision you make, live with that, stand on that. So I knew me investing in this mentorship program, I was actually going to do the work. I was going to do whatever it took because I knew that I wanted to retire from nursing. I didn't want to do it at 65. I wanted to do it at 28. So I was going to do whatever it took. And yeah, like I didn't know that I was investing in a program. I just thought that I was going to like an event, like a workshop or something. But his name is Nehemiah Davis, and he's one of the most incredible people I've ever met in my entire life. I started his program in April, May of 2022. And then June 2022, I made my first $13,000 in a month. And I've been making anywhere between $10,000 to $60,000 literally every single month since then. So for me, I started, trying to learn about business and learn about entrepreneurship. I tried to do it on my own by myself for 5 months. And then I invested in a mentor. And then the next month, I made my first 5 figures in business. And then just more and more and more after that, I realized, okay, Christina, if you want consecutive wins, you're going to have to invest in mentorship because they're going to help you get there faster. The mistakes that you are thinking about making or things that you may not even foresee, they will help skip over that to get the results that you want. And that's honestly how I was able to retire last year, by investing in a mentorship program.
They say, I heard somebody say this previously, but it's like, it takes about 10,000 hours for someone to become an expert in their field, right? But when you invest in a mentorship program or a mentor, you're basically, you're borrowing from them those 10,000 hours that it took them to learn those things, and they're teaching you and they're walking you through that process so that you can skip ahead of all those hours that it would take you to learn all that stuff by yourself. So I totally agree with this mentorship stuff, and we're hopefully going to be able to invest in a mentorship program soon to help us build our e-commerce brand. But it's kind of complicated what we're trying to grow because it's a huge e-commerce brand. But after you made this $60,000, $10,000 to $60,000, is that when you decided to quit your job, or did you decide before that?
No, I decided literally when I invested in that mentorship program, I decided then because he would say things like, if you're going to do it, you got to go all in. He's like, if you're going to do it, you got to go all in. And I really took that to heart. Like, I really took it to heart. And full transparency, most people that I meet around the world, not just in America, but all around the world, they'll start businesses, but they don't believe in themselves. They don't. They don't believe that it'll work. They say, I'll start this, but if it doesn't take off or if it doesn't work, I always have a backup plan. For me, there was no backup plan. There was no plan B. I didn't care that I had a degree. I didn't care because when I quit, and I literally quit my job working as a travel nurse, and I was making $16,000 a month. I was making, hypothetically speaking, a great deal of income, but I was throwing up. I was having migraines. I was like, my equilibrium, it was just off. And I am a pretty healthy person. So for me to be experiencing that, I had no understanding why. I literally went to sleep one day and I woke up and I told my partner, I said, I'm not going to work today. And he said, okay, you want to stay home? You want to read a book? You want to watch a movie? And I said, no, I'm not going back to work ever again. And he looked at me and he said, okay, let's do this. So I had made that decision. I made that decision before I invested in my mentorship program. So when the opportunity came, it just was such, right timing. And I made $13,000 that first month. And I was just making, like 5 figures consecutively. And then I want to say I made anywhere between like $50,000 to $60,000 in October, possibly. And then I remember in December, I had made $26,000 in a day. So I was just like, it was just coming so fast. And it wasn't that I didn't expect it. I just didn't know that it was going to come as fast as it did. But I'm so grateful that I didn't have any plan Bs or anything to distract me. And I was available, for my business and to just allow it to grow. So I'm grateful. I tell people all the time, listen, if you don't have a mentor, invest in a mentor, whoever you decide for that person to be. And sometimes people ask me, well, how did you find yours? How do I know who's the right person? And I always tell them results. Results are super important. So my mentor, he helped people make $1 million in a day. Multiple people, multiple times, $100,000 in a day, $100,000 in a month. So for me, it was just such a no-brainer to actually invest because I knew that, I was smart enough, I was qualified enough, and I was determined and I desired it. You have to desire actually winning, wanting more for yourself, wanting more for your family. You can't just think, okay, it might work or it might not work. You have to make sure that it works.
I want to go back to a few things that you said. So when you mentioned that you had to quit your job or you decided to quit your job, you had no backup plan. The previous nurse that I interviewed who has a med spa business, she has like a coaching side of her business, whereas before she just used to treat customers at her med spa.
Yeah.
She used to work at UCLA when she first opened up her med spa. She was running it for about a year. And then she decided, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm going to quit my job at UCLA. She was making like $95 an hour, quit her job, and just focus fully on her med spa business. Within a year and a half to 2 years, she started that mentorship program in the courses. And now she's making about $600 and something thousand per year. So like 50,000 plus per month. And that's just off the courses that she's selling. But she said it wasn't until she quit her job that shift happened. And she said she had no plan whatsoever.
Yes. And it's true. I'm telling you, it's true because when you have a plan B or you have a backup, you're not as committed.
Yeah.
I was introduced to Alex Hormozy because I was committed to learning about personal development. Sometimes, where was I? I don't know. So I was just recently somewhere and they were just like, you can change the TV if you want. And I'm like, I haven't turned on the TV in 6 years. Yeah. Like I haven't watched the TV. When I'm online and people are talking about the Netflix shows, I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's nothing, it's not, a jab at anyone who watches TV or who watches, movies. But for me, I couldn't just rest. I had to figure it out. I had to be committed I had to be committed to becoming the best version of myself. And gratefully, when I invested in that mentorship program, my network expanded exponentially. I was now surrounded by hundreds of millionaires and multimillionaires. So the things that worked for Chrissy before she invested in her mentorship program just didn't work anymore. I now was adopting the mindset of all of these millionaires and multimillionaires that I was exposed to. So I still have that network today. And I think that that's why I have the habits that I have. And I just, practice the things that I do because I know that this is what's going to produce results for me. Me being 1 foot in travel nursing, being 1 foot in business, that was not going to produce the results for me that I wanted. So I just quit and I was getting really sick and I didn't know why I was sick. And when I stopped working, I promise you, I never threw up again, never had a migraine, never was stressed out. There were days where I really felt like I couldn't walk and I would feel anxiety and I would be nauseous as soon as I would walk into a hospital. So that's when I knew that, okay, it's work. It's work. And it wasn't even my patients because I love taking care of patients. I love helping people, but it was the environment. I was in just toxic environments. Everyone around me, they were not necessarily happy. We were short staffed. And the whole entire time, I'm just listening to my gospel, just rocking back and forth. And I wasn't allowing it to consume me, but because I was just that one person around 30, it was just a lot for me. So I was just like, they can keep the money. I'll quit. I'll figure it out. I'm going to start this business. I'm going to lean on faith. And, that's just how things have been ever since. And I always say, me investing in mentorship programs changed my life. Ask yourself, how much is your freedom worth? If you had to just, any number, if you had to say, okay, if I want freedom, I'll, pay this price. What would that price be? What would your price be?
What would my price be?
What would your price be? And I'll tell you how much I invested that actually got me freedom, like true freedom.
My price, so at the moment, it's going to rise. But at the moment, I just want that my income replaces my current income at home. That's it. I don't want to have to worry about my health insurance, my dental insurance for my entire family. I don't want to have to worry about how much money we're going to have to cover the rent and the mortgage. Those are the things, the basic necessities. Once I have that covered, I feel like I'm good. Now I can just put in extra work to make that even higher income, make that income even higher,
Yeah.
And that's the point I want to be at right now. But I know my ultimate goal really is to make at least $50,000 to $100,000 a month, at least.
You can do it. You can. I'm telling you, I kid you not. You can do it, and it comes like this, But the first thing is believing. But you even being on here and interviewing me right now, at least you're okay with showing your face, and you're okay with creating content. Most people, they want things to happen. They either want it to happen overnight or they want it to happen without having to show their face or network. Things that are a requirement in business for the most part, depending on your business model. But for me, I invested in that first mentorship program that was $55K. I didn't pay it all at once. I maybe put down like $20,000 or $25,000, and then I actually paid for installments throughout the rest. And then I ended up investing in another mentorship program that was related to like car rentals and luxury because I thought I wanted to go that route, but I didn't really use much from that. So that's $80,000. And then I invested $15,000 at the end of the year in another program. So that's $95,000. But that $15,000 program really set me up and accelerated my speed. So even though I invested $95,000 between April 2022, well, for the first program, it was $55K, and I invested $25,000, and then I probably, paid like $5,000 or something every single month. The second program was $20,000 or $25,000, one of those, but I had to pay for all of it. So I paid for that in full. And then at the end of the year, I invested into another program that was $15K, and you had to pay for that in full. And I started that program maybe like March or so. I just ended up sculpting out that mentor around the end of the year. So even though I invest that much, within the first 4 months of 2023, I had made over $100,000. So I realized the more you invest in yourself, the more you're going to learn and the quicker you're going to grow. So for me, that first mentorship program that I invested in, it bought me 100% true freedom. And if you use the money wisely and you invest wisely, you can really set yourself up for success. And another tip for anyone who's watching this, I highly recommend that you start looking at your living expenses and look at how much it costs to be you every single month. So that's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, whatever that is, that number, look at that number, and then multiply that by 6. Your first goal should be trying to get that number. So if your number is $5,000 a month of what it costs to be you, you need to have a goal of getting $35,000. That should be your new goal. So starting a side hustle or starting a business and getting that first $35,000, because what it's going to do is you're going to be able to pay your living expenses for 6 months. So now you're not focused on how am I going to eat, how am I going to live, how am I going to survive. You're solely focused on growing your business and increasing your income. And I feel like that's what I realized worked for me. When I'm not in survival mode, when I'm not stressed out, when I'm living my soft life, I'm able to think clear, I'm able to be creative, and I'm able to help serve and, really do more for others. So that's a recommendation that I feel like people should really take into consideration.
All right, listen, I'm looking for a mentor. You're it.
I do mentorship program. I do have a mentorship program. You all choose me, choose me. But for anyone, I really do think that, you should look at results. And the reason why, or I feel like a big reason why my business was so successful, hypothetically speaking, because success is relative, right?
Yeah.
But it was so successful for me when I first started was because I helped nurses before I even started a business. So I helped, 15 nurses make $100,000 in less than a year before I even started my business. So I already had testimonials. I already had results, even though I didn't know that these things were important in business. Because again, I didn't know anything about business. I was just trying to help my friends. I was just trying to be, a good vessel. I don't know. I was just trying to help my friends, but that really helped me in business because people were just like, oh, okay, we can trust you, So,
you helped, I would imagine, is mostly travel nurses, or was it also staff nurses that you were helping earn more income?
So I was helping both. I honestly was, if you came to me and you're like, I need some help, I was willing to help you. I didn't turn anyone away. Majority, when I first started, I was helping a lot of staff nurses, and they were people who knew me. So, they didn't think, this just some random influencer on social media. Like, this is Chrissy. Like, I know her, she helped me hang 20 units of blood. I can trust her kind of thing. So I helped them become travel nurses. And then there were some of them, they tried travel nursing, but it just wasn't successful for them. And I helped them. And then we just created a new strategy.
So in what ways did you help them? Yes, you helped them make more money, but how did they go about doing that?
Honestly, strategy. I feel like, because I remember working with one person, I didn't even know him. Honestly, he was just referred to me because we had mutual friends, and he had worked as a nurse for maybe 4 years or a little bit more than 4 years. And he was trying to figure out a strategy with travel nursing, and it just wasn't successful. And then I talked to him on the phone for 1 hour. And then that year he made $200,000 in a year. So I think that what I really helped people with was mindset, and also just making them aware. As I mentioned, I had a lot of knowledge from 2014 up until when I actually got started. So I was able to help people navigate, not necessarily from what was currently going on at the time, whatever that year was, but more so, okay, these are the trends since 2014. This is what is expected to happen in this month of March. How do you want to program, or how do you want to actually figure out how do you want to place travel nursing in your life? What do you want to do during this time? Okay, during this season of the year, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to take place. So when shifts started to happen, they weren't shocked. They had already had a strategy to be able to, still successfully make however much money they wanted to make. So I feel like more so I help them with strategy, just making them aware, giving them a lot of information that they wouldn't just be able to find on the internet or in a TikTok video. And, just being a support for them, helping them realize that you can negotiate. Everything is negotiable. Everything that you can possibly think of is negotiable. And then, whenever they would, like, situations would come apart or come upon them, they would reach out to me and say, Chrissy, like, what do I do? This happened at work. How do I handle this? So just being a support system and helping them navigate through, for sure.
That's beautiful. So at what point, you said you took this mentorship program. At what point did you make that decision that the value you were providing to these nurses was worthy of putting into a course or a mentorship program?
So my mentor, he's the one who made me aware of my worth because I was just doing it for free. I was doing it because I wanted to help people. And I just feel like, I don't know, I just feel like your friends don't let their friends just not make any money. I don't know. And I know what it felt like to go from making $24.50 an hour to $200 an hour. I know what that felt like. And I don't know. I just never, I'm the type of person, I don't feel like me helping you is going to stop me in any kind of way. Like, I'm still going to get it. I'm still going to get to it. But he made me very aware because he said, you know, who do you want to help? And I was like, I want to help nurses. And I was like, I want to help them make more money because I don't think that they know that they can make as much as they can. And, you know, they don't have the strategies. And he was like, well, you know, who have you helped before? And I showed him all the information. And he was just like, you did all this? And I was like, yeah. And he was just like, how long did it take you? He was like, some people I just talked to for an hour. You know, some people are my friends. You know, I was just talking to him on FaceTime. And he was just like, so you didn't even really like try hard. And I was like, no, like it's not hard. And he said, Christina, this is almost $2 million. Like, do you understand that? And I was like, I didn't really look at it like that. I was just like helping people. And he was like, you need to create a mentorship program, $20,000. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Because one, I didn't even really know him. Again, you know, I'm just going to this event. I'm thinking that I'm going to this workshop. And now he's my mentor and he's, you know, giving me advice. And I'm just like, I wasn't ready for that advice. And he said, you need to create a program, $20,000. And I was like, oh no, I can't charge a nurse $20,000. I just, my heart won't let me do it. I can't do it. And he said, $10,000. I'm not going any less than that. And he just walked off. It's like, wait a minute. I like this, but I don't know if I like this. What is happening? But now that I am where I am, I know that he saw so much in me that I didn't see in myself because I was just so used to helping everyone for free that I had to transition my mindset from employee to business owner. It was no longer about me just volunteering my services or doing something nice. This is a business. This is a company. So I didn't discover that. He discovered it. And I was dealing with like a lot of issues in the very beginning because when I was introduced to social media, I was just a girl who traveled. I was just a girl who traveled the world and I was very private. I would post, you know, trees and the ocean, you know, things like that. No, that was my era. That was my vibe on social media. And I had about 5,000 followers, but I wasn't really teaching anyone anything. I was just living my life and posting my life and everyone was okay with that. But I feel like when I started having a business and I started actually helping nurses and people were just like, wait a minute, like you're supposed to be the travel girl. Like now you're this like business owner. And I struggled with that in the beginning because I just knew that I just wanted to help people. I didn't know that, you know, me starting a business was going to cause me harm or ruckus. And my mentor, he would always send me videos talking about like law of attraction, you know, just about vibrating higher and not caring what people think. And that just meant so much to me because I was just like, you're like this 9-figure earner and you care about me not caring about what people think about me. And I needed that. I didn't know that I needed that because in my personal life, that was not really a thing. You know, if you didn't like me or you felt some type of way, I don't really have problems with people and I didn't have issues with patients. So that wasn't my reality. So when I became a business owner and that was my reality, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? So he was the one who really helped me discover my worth to be able to say, listen, someone is working with you. They're investing $10,000. You've helped them make almost 200,000, Christina. It's worth it. You know, the exchange is most definitely worth it. So it was him, my mentor for sure.
That's just amazing because people don't think about it in that way. They don't value it that way. The only thing they think about when they're an employee, especially, is this is very expensive and I cannot afford it. But they don't think about how much more money they're losing out on because they don't invest in this one thing, right? Because they might be, let's say most nurses might be making average $70,000 a year across the country. Now it's $82,000 per year, but they could be making they're losing out on $120,000 that they could be making in addition to that because they don't want to invest in an extra $10,000. So I totally see it.
But you also are operating with a business, you know, or you're introduced to doing something outside of nursing and you even know who Alex Hormozy is. So, these little things that play a part in our life are huge in our mindset. So I always tell everyone that mindset is everything. And something my mentor would always say is, what is it going to cost you if you don't do it?
Exactly.
What is it going to cost you if you don't do it? And I think that's what sold me. That's what got me up on that stage because, he didn't tell us how much it was. He didn't tell us what the investment was going to be. He just spoke about what it was. And he was just like, this is for you, come up on this stage. And then when I saw the price, I was just like, I'm still going to do it. But wow, well, this is a lot.
Yeah.
When you invest so much in yourself and you understand the importance of investing, you have no issue and no problem with someone investing in you. And those who are for you, those clients who are for you, they will invest. They will understand. And even people who are just watching, there was a nurse, she had been following me for 4 years and she was on one of my classes yesterday. And I just always ask everyone, how long have you been following me? And she was like, 4 years, I'm so proud of you. And I'm just like, wow, I remember just posting trees on Instagram 4 years ago, but I'm happy you're here and I'm happy you're in my class. So I understand that it's a mindset thing. And sometimes it just takes some people longer than others, and that's okay.
So tell me more about your program for those people that are interested in making more money as nurses or getting away from feeling like they're burned out and overworking themselves. What is it that you offer these nurses?
So I have 2 programs. My first program that I have is essentially an academy where you will learn financial literacy. So I have millionaires and multimillionaires coming to teach nurses specifically in their industry of where they are making $1 million a year or $1 million a month or multiple $1 million a month. So if you are someone and you don't necessarily have good credit, you can learn how to get a 700 to an 800 credit score and $100,000 in personal and business credit in less than 100 days. As far as, real estate, everyone needs to know more about real estate and, just building and growing wealth in real estate. So you can learn how to start an Airbnb business without owning any property, how to start a group home business, how to make $10,000 a month with tax deeds, how to make $10,000 a month renting rooms. There's just a plethora of financial literacy where we had no exposure to in nursing school. In the academy that I have, it exposes everyone to that and it tells you the steps of what you need to do. So that's on the financial literacy side. And then on the travel nursing and strike nursing side, we educate about travel nursing, educate about strike nursing, and then we drop those contracts. So those high paying contracts. So I remember last year I was telling nurses, hey, get your Hawaii license, get your PA license, get your California license, because next year strikes are going to happen back to back to back and it will be on. And literally, look at what's happening right now. So the nurses who are a part of my program right now, they were prepared. They were already ready and they were just waiting. So I know this past weekend, there was a strike in California. They dropped the contract inside of the group and about 8 nurses went to California, made 10K, and then they came home. They were 3 days and then they came home. So it also serves as a, job board where you're learning how you can negotiate if you have any questions about anything. If you need more contracts or you need higher paying contracts, we drop contracts in there. So that's the program that I have as far as travel nursing, fixing your personal credit, learning about business, starting a business, getting business credit, and then knowing what to do with the money. Because again, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And we are going to be able to make money as nurses, but we need to invest that money to make more money for us. So that's that program. And then the other program that I have is my high ticket business coaching and high ticket offers mentorship program. So that is where I am teaching them about business, having a digital business and creating digital products and programs where they will be able to price and sell their products and programs anywhere from $1,000 to $15,000 per product. So that is my higher ticket program that I have for those who they've graduated from that level and they're just like, okay, I'm serious about business. I want to start a business. I want to learn. I don't know where to start, but I want to have my business online and I want to be able to create products and programs that I can sell for $1,000, $5,000, $2,500. That's that program that I have for them.
I don't know. I might join your program.
I would love to have you. And right now so the program that I have for like my business coaching and high ticket offers, that program is a 3-month program. So it's not something that someone stays in for a full year, but the goal is not to keep you somewhere for a full year. The goal is for you to get the information that you need and teach you how to start generating income in business and then scaling And then you always have me as a support. So I want to say in the beginning of the year, I remember working with like 8 clients. Like now I have like a new batch of 8 clients. So whenever they come in, I actually am able to help them. It doesn't matter where they are. If they're only making $1,000, $5,000 in their business, if they're just starting from scratch, I help everyone build everything from scratch.
That's amazing. I used to ask my previous guests about other investments that they have, about their net worth, and I haven't done that in a while. So some of my commenters have asked, can I ask my guests if they know what their net worth is or how much their investments are worth? Do you know any of that information?
Yes. So I would say, as far as like stocks, I probably have $100,000 in stocks. As far as, yeah, I would say probably like $100,000 or so in stocks. And then I have life insurance policy. So I put my money also in like IUL. So I don't even know what the value of the IUL policies that I have. I haven't looked or anything like that this morning. But as far as my money and what I personally do with my money, I invest in mentorship programs. I invest in personal development. So whether I'm going to a conference and, a ticket maybe $10,000 or $2,500, that's what I'm doing with my money. And then I have my digital product business and digital program, high ticket offer business. So as far as how the income works for that, I don't have any overhead. So the only thing that I'm paying as far as expenses are things that I might need for the business, like, laptop, lighting, or if I'm paying my staff, and then everything else is pure profit.
Gotcha. At what point did you decide that you needed a lawyer or a tax accountant to work
Oh,
with you?
very beginning. The very beginning. So one of my very close friends, my best friend, he graduated from Harvard. And then everyone else in my close network before I even joined my mentorship program, they're all in finances or law, all of them. Every single last one of them, that's their industry. I have friends who are nurses and things like that. But again, I didn't know that I wanted to become a nurse. That came later in life. But I knew from the very beginning, because again, I never looked at my business as a small business. I always looked at my business as if, no, this is a big business. This is going to be a big thing. And I am big on contracts and policies. I've always been big on contracts and policies since high school. My 10th grade teacher, Ms. Diesla, if you're watching this, you can attest to this. I want you to go ahead and put in the comments and let them know, listen, she's always been about contracts and policies. But I knew, as far as from a travel nursing perspective, it's very important to read your contracts. So I knew in business, I needed to have a CPA, needed to have an accountant, needed to have a lawyer on retainer for sure. So the very beginning.
Yeah, that's great information because I hired an accountant, but he's not on my payroll. He's just an accountant that I go to like once, maybe twice a year. Right? No, that's not what I need.
No. It's good to have someone that you can work with all year round. And what I realize is, sometimes you can be on the trajectory of, say, let's just say you make $250,000 a year staff in California. So imagine making $250,000 a year in your business. That's what you're aiming for, right? Because you want to replace your income. But let's say you made $500,000. You had no intentions on making the extra $250,000. What are you going to do with it? So me having my accountant, she's just always there saying, okay, this is a tax shelter that you can implement. This is what you can do here. So me just having her, I talked to her yesterday. I called her and then she texted me. She was just like, are you calling me about this such and such client? But I can actually call her. And I feel like that's better to have someone who, you can have a relationship with, a rapport with year round, because one quarter might be slow for you, but then the next 3 quarters, now you're up $1 million and you didn't plan on being up $1 million. So that's what I learned about having someone on payroll. And then a lawyer, just always overseeing contracts. I remember before getting on this call, someone sent me a contract agreement and I'm not, rushed to sign it because I want my lawyer to oversee it first. So
makes sense.
It's important. Very beginning.
Yeah. So if you could go back to when you started as a nurse to where you are now, is there something that you would have done differently?
I don't think I would have done anything differently. No, I don't think I would have done anything differently. Things that I've endured as a nurse that I did not like, just dealing with lateral bullying, workplace violence, stuff like that. I don't feel like I deserve that at all. But now that I know what I know about the American healthcare system and how nursing is I know that, okay, Christina, it wasn't a you thing. This is a system thing. So as far as me doing anything differently, no, I feel like everything that I've experienced and I've gone through was happening for me, not to me. And when I switch my mindset to understanding that, I use that in every aspect of my life, whether I'm using it for myself or I'm helping a client or I'm helping a customer. I use everything. So I wouldn't do anything differently. No.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that answer. All right. So how can my viewers find you if they're looking for you?
If you are looking for me, you can find me Nurse Chrissy TV, NurseChriSSY TV. Any other page of me is a fake page.
If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you click on this playlist here and follow us for more.